Hello everyone, welcome back to the channel, and today we are going to be talking about Monster Hunter Wilds. Today I'm going to be giving you guys my review after 1 week of Monster Hunter Wilds, because as of today, it has been a week since Monster Hunter Wilds has been released, and guys, this game is absolutely incredible, and I'm going to give you all of my thoughts on the game, so let's get into it. If you're new to the channel, welcome, and I think I should start this off by saying that I am a massive Monster Hunter fan already. Prior to playing this game, I have played a ton of these games, and it is in my top 3 favorite game series of all time, so I want you to keep that in mind, that I am biased towards the series. However, there's a reason why this game has sold 8 million copies in just 3 days. For the first part of this video, I'm going to keep this as spoiler-free as possible, and when we transition into spoilers, I'm going to let you guys know. I'm also just going to be using trailer footage for the video portion of this video, so it's going to be much more of a listening experience. So with those disclaimers out of the way, kick back, relax, and let's get right into it. So to start off, I just want to say that with Monster Hunter Wilds, whether you're new to the series or a veteran, in terms of content here, as always with Monster Hunter, you will not be disappointed. You are definitely going to get your money's worth and then some. For some context, I have already put 70 hours into the game during this first week, and I am still playing. I still have stuff I want to do in the game, and it's only going to get better over time as the developers add event quests and the title updates, and eventually the expansion. I absolutely love all of the new additions to the combat in this game. Focus mode feels incredible. It almost feels like L targeting from Legend of Zelda, like the 3D Legend of Zelda games, but in Monster Hunter, and it allows you to kind of angle your attacks in different directions, which in all of the previous Monster Hunter games, you kind of just had to swing your weapon or fire it in one particular way, unless you're using the range weapons, which of course then you can aim in any direction you want. But the focus mode is awesome, and I also love the wound mechanics that come with it. So when you're fighting a monster and you're attacking certain parts, you can of course still break parts on them as always. However, now these wounds will pop up, these red gashes will pop up, and your flash flies will highlight them, and you can do a special attack with each weapon to pop the wound for lots of damage. And it's just so satisfying. My favorite one of these attacks is 100% the dual blade wound popping attack, and if you have not seen that yet, oh my god, just get dual blades and try it for yourself. Trust me, it is just incredible. I think the other combat additions, like the offset attacks being these really cool cinematic counters, as well as the perfect parries and the power clashes, are also just incredible additions to combat, and they make hunting monsters feel even more incredible. Speaking of monsters, I am really happy to say that this roster of monsters at launch is a really, really good one overall. I do have some issues with it that I want to talk a little bit about, or not issues per se, but just some things where I'm like, that's an interesting choice. Like, oh, why isn't... Really, there's none of that here at launch. Interesting. But I will get into that more in the spoilers section. But for now, I just want to say that the roster of monsters, like all of the brand new monsters overall, are incredible. There's only a couple where I'm like, they're okay. But overall, I just love all of the brand new monsters. I think there's a lot of different types of monsters on display here. You know, I think that was a big problem with Monster Hunter World and Iceborne especially. We really only had wyverns, dragons, the fish wyverns, Piscine wyverns, and brute wyverns, and maybe there was another type I'm forgetting. Oh, fanged beasts, we had some of those too, but really not many classifications of monsters, and you know, especially in base world, it was just really but this game is not like that at all. There's a ton of different monster types and classifications in this game right out the gate, and I am all here for that. To be fair, Monster Hunter World was the beginning of the sort of new age of Monster Hunter, and you know, they had to make brand new models, new rigs, all kinds of things, so it makes sense why they didn't have a ton of different types of monsters in that game, which is why I think Rise had a lot more types, because they had more time to kind of, you know, start adding some more of those rigs into the game. But I digress. The monsters are incredible overall, at least from a base roster standpoint, and the combat's great. The time that you are going to get out of this game is just so worth your money. And now let's go into the exploration and the world. So in terms of the world and some kind of innovations they have made there, the game still has seamless maps, of course, like Monster Hunter World and Rise and Sunbreak. And now, though, you can actually travel between zones seamlessly, which is really interesting. Or, like, not zones, but, like, maps. So you can go from, like, the desert to the forest through this, like, transition point on the map without a loading screen. I think it's cool. I don't really think it's, like, necessary, but I do think it's a cool addition. Also, the big thing with the environments in this game is the environmental changes, right? So every map has 3 different seasons that it'll go through. You have the fallow, which is kind of drab and kind of bleh overall. You know, it's not really, like, the maps honestly are not the prettiest when they're in the fallow. But then you have the season of plenty, which is where every map is just gorgeous. Like, for example, the first map, the Windward Plains, is just like all the plants are blooming. There's all these beautiful autumnal colors, and the sun is out. It's incredible, right? And then last but not least, you have the inclement weather. And so in the case of the Windward Plains, going back to that example, the desert storm really kicks up. There's dust blowing around everywhere, and there are these crazy lightning storms constantly happening in the area. And every single area has these exact seasons, but they're all different per area, right? So like the forest has like a different inclement type of weather and so on. With this weather system, I do think it is really, really cool. However, kind of like being able to seamlessly go between the different maps, I do feel that right now the weather system doesn't affect as much as it should. I feel like it should affect some more things. It's really cool. Again, don't get me wrong, it's awesome. However, like really the biggest thing right now is that certain monsters prefer different types of weather, and especially the apex predators of each region like to come out during the inclement weather. Another cool innovation that they did is the pack monsters. This is something that, you know, I think, again, is really cool, and I like it. I think it's a cool addition. I don't think that it's, like, groundbreaking or earth-shattering, however. And I would like to see more done with this in the future with title updates and the eventual expansion, but not too much more. I think there's a healthy balance to be struck here. So, you know, in previous Monster Hunter games, you could only have one of the same type of large monster on a map at a time. So for example, you could never really see 2 Rathalos on a map at once in older games, unless it was like regular Rathalos and Azure Rathalos, or it was like an arena quest. But I'm talking about like the main maps, right? You couldn't really have that happen. In this game, you can have like whole packs of monsters, and not every monster likes to travel in packs. However, even if they don't, you can still see multiples of that monster on a map at a time, and it's really, really cool and interesting. And you know, just the interactions that these monsters will have with each other, of course, brought over from the 5th gen, is still great. But in terms of the pack monster system, it's pretty simple actually. You just use dung pods to break up the packs, and they will disperse, and then you can fight your main target. All right, now we're going to talk about the story of the game, which I think is really good. And Monster Hunter, for those of you who are new to the series, Monster Hunter usually has a story. However, in a lot of the older games, it's very much a side thing. It's not really the most important thing. You know, it's there, but it's not really why you're playing the game. And that's still the case here, but they do definitely emphasize the story a bit more. And, you know, there's some more cutscenes, there's more dialogue. The Hunter, for the first time in series history, speaks in full sentences during cutscenes. Like Rise, they kind of did a little bit of that, but it was only during combat. And so in this game, yeah, your Hunter just fully speaks, is fully voice acted, and talks to the other characters. I really like that. I think it added a lot more possibilities for what they were able to do in the story from a writing perspective. And your Palico also speaks, but no, at least for me, I switched that option to just have them meow and read the subtitles like the older games. I really do not like listening to my Palico speak like that. I just don't. But I can kind of understand why they would do that, and I appreciate that there's an option to change it back to the meows and subtitles. But I personally thought that the story was really good and interesting, and I think that it's one of, if not the best story in Monster Hunter history. I also never felt like the pacing was off. You know, you're not playing you don't have Metal Gear Solid 4 levels of cutscenes where you're sitting there for like half an hour and then you have a little bit of gameplay. No, there's a good mix. It's like, okay, you have a cutscene, you hunt a monster, cutscene, fight, kind of goes like that. It goes very quick. The story has a really good pace and it still keeps things interesting. I really liked the characters and kind of the things that we learn about this place that we're in, the Forbidden Lands, which is to the far east in the old world, which is like the main Monster Hunter continent. So overall, yes, this game is just incredibly beginner friendly for newcomers. It makes it really easy for brand new people to learn the game with all kinds of tips. And you know, the difficulty is something that a lot of people are discussing right now with this game. And there are some pretty challenging monsters in the end game. However, there's really not much of them right now, especially if you have good gear, but just because the game is not ridiculously difficult all the time doesn't mean it's not fun. I have had a ton of fun with this game, and I'm sure that we are going to get way more challenging monsters in the updates to come. And of course, G rank is going to be much more challenging, or master rank, when the eventual expansion happens. But I think that in terms of difficulty, they do a good job of making it easy to pick up and play for newcomers and getting people kind of into it before they just, you know, throw them to the wolves, so to speak, with the really tough monsters. So to wrap up the non-spoiler section, if I had to give this game a score, it would be an easy 10 out of 10 for me personally. I'm playing the game on PS5, by the way, so I have not experienced any of the performance issues that PC players are having. So, you know, maybe my score would be a bit different if I was on PC, but you know, as someone who loves Monster Hunter and is, you know, one of my favorite game series of all time, this game just feels incredible, and I think that it has the potential to be one of the GOATs of the series. And you know, we'll just have to wait and see when everything's said and done, when all the updates and the eventual expansion and all that. I think, you know, we're gonna have one of the GOATs on our hands in terms of Monster Hunter. And you know, when I say 10 out of 10, that doesn't mean that I think the game is perfect, because you know, nothing really is perfect. Everything has flaws, and you know, that's what makes things special, and for us to be able to look at them and still love them as much as we do despite their flaws. But yes, I would give this a easy 10 out of 10, legendary status. If you are a veteran of Monster Hunter, you're gonna love the game, and if you are a newcomer to the series, I really hope you like it as much as I do, and as much as so many other people do. And you know, I'll see you out there. But alright, it is time for us to get into the spoiler section of this video, where I want to talk about some of the endgame systems, talk a little bit about some specific monsters. I'm gonna name drop monsters that, you know, maybe you don't know that are in the game if you haven't played through the whole story yet. So that is your spoiler warning. If you have not already played through the entirety of low rank and the high rank main missions, click off of the video now and come back and watch it after you have done that. Alright, let's get into the spoiler section. So to start off with the spoiler section, I want to get my few gripes out of the way that I have with the game. Now, these are really small gripes. Again, like, I am loving this game so much. There's a reason why I gave it a 10 out of 10 score, and I've put 70 hours into the game already in just a week. But I do have some gripes, and I think that these things need to be addressed in the coming updates to the game, so let's get into it. First of all, I mentioned earlier in the non-spoiler section that while I think the launch roster of monsters is overall incredible, especially like all the brand new monsters are just, for the most part, aside from a few that I'm like, about, generally it's just an incredible lineup of brand new monsters. But I think where it gets a little bit weird and kind of a mixed bag is the returning monsters. So for the returning monsters in this game, I might miss some here. I'm just listing them off the top of my head, but we have Yian Kut-Ku, Gypceros, Nerscylla, Gravios, Ebony Odogaron, Fulgur Anjanath. Granted, they're, you know, like slightly different because of the Guardian thing, but then we have, of course, Rathian and Rathalos, Gormagala, my literal favorite monster, so that one makes me extremely happy, of course. Nerscylla, which, I don't know if I said that already, but Congalala, Blungaga, and I feel like I'm forgetting one, but those are all the ones that are jumping to my mind right now. And so the reason why I think it's a little bit weird, or kind of a mixed bag, is like, okay, you have Gormagala, my favorite monster. You know, so many people love Gormagala, the flagship of Monster Hunter 4. Incredible monster, And then you have like Gypceros, right? And it's like, why do we have Gypceros? Like, this monster's not, like, it's cool that he's back. I'm not saying it's not cool. Like, I like, you know, that we're giving a lot of these OG Monster Hunter monsters, like, that were literally in the original game, that haven't been in a game since, like, 4th generation, you know, before Monster Hunter World. Their time to shine again in a new game. But it does feel kind of weird when, like, you beat low rank, you fight this crazy final boss in Zoshia, and then the game's just like, all right, you're in high rank now, go fight a Yian Kut-Ku. And that's, I mean, obviously, like, you're at the beginning of a new rank, so it makes sense that you'd want to fight some low-tier difficulty monsters to start the new rank off. And I like Yian Kut-Ku, by the way. I don't have a problem with Yian Kut-Ku. It's just kind of like Gypceros, Gravios, Yian Kut-Ku. It's like, like, it's kind of like, like, I don't know. Like, I wish there were some more heavy hitters in the returning monster roster. And I'm sure that with the title updates, we're going to get some more really cool ones. But it is just something where I'm not, like, mad about it. I'm just kind of like, interesting. I think one of the biggest things is that right now there's literally no Elder Dragons in the game. Now, Capcom did say that they are not going to be focusing as much on Elder Dragons in this game because, you know, that was like a whole thing in World with the Elder Crossing and everything. But it's still weird, you know, Elder Dragons are such a main staple of the Monster Hunter series, and usually they're like some of the biggest challenges that you're going to face in the end game. And to not have any at launch is really weird. Now, obviously, Zoshia, the final boss of low rank, which we will get to that in a little bit, because I have some gripe. That's an incredible fight, but there's some stuff that needs to be addressed that I really hope they address in this first title update, but we will discuss that soon. Zoshia is like, I imagine an Elder Dragon, but, you know, officially, because it's a Guardian, it's just classified as a construct. So yeah, and then you have Gore Magala, which they reclassified as Demi-Elder, which I think is really cool. But the weird thing is that we have Gore, but we don't have Shagaru Magala. And that has never happened before. Like, every single game that Gore has been in, we've always had Shagaru with him. And if you're not familiar with Gore Magala, which, you know, hopefully you should be, because you should not be watching the spoiler section of this video unless you have played the game. But if it's your first Monster Hunter game, and this is your first time encountering Gore Magala, he has an adult form. Gore Magala is actually the younger version, and the adult form is an Elder Dragon known as Shagaru Magala. So yeah, no Elder Dragons at launch. Definitely weird. I also think that it is a bit weird how Frenzied Monsters right now, which, like, yes, they brought back Frenzied Monsters. I think that's really cool. It's awesome they brought them back. It was something I was really hoping for. But the problem that I have with the Frenzied Monsters right now is that they are meant to be more challenging than regular monsters. And obviously we have the Tempered Monsters, and we'll talk more about that soon. But with the Frenzied Monsters, they are supposed to still be stronger than the regular monsters. And in this game right now, they actually die quicker than the regular monsters. And we are also limited to the amount of Frenzied Monsters that we can see, because the only Frenzied Monsters that we see are ones that are appearing in the ice map, because that's where Gore Magala's habitat is, which, like, also Gore Magala should be able to go to any habitat that it wants. It should not just be relegated to the ice habitat all the time. I know that it can also go to, like, the arena, but that doesn't really count. So I just think it's kind of weird from that angle. And also, like, Frenzy Crystals don't really do anything right now. Like, they're only used for Gore Magala related gear. Like, there's not any endgame system that they really engage with, and I really think that needs to be addressed, because yes, like, the Tempered stuff and that whole system is incredible with the investigations, and we'll talk about that soon. But the Frenzied Crystals and, like, killing Frenzied Monsters should still have a big endgame impact, in my opinion. And, you know, I'd love to see, like, the Apex monsters from Monster Hunter 4 return, you know, monsters that have overcome the Frenzy virus, and they have special rewards. Now, my last gripe with the game at launch, as of, you know, being a week into the launch of the game, is Zoshia. And I love Zoshia. It is an incredible fight. However, the problem is that right now you can only fight Zoshia once per save file, unless you fight with a player who is, you know, doing it for their first time, because you can't repeat the quest. It's only a main quest. It's also only a low rank quest, and you also can't get any gear from Zoshia right now. So You know, for those of you who haven't been keeping up with the news about Title Update 1, Capcom did say that there is going to be at least one other monster besides Mizusune in the first title update, and I really hope that it's going to be some new version, some different version of Zoshia, like a non-Guardian version or something, and we're actually going to be able to make its gear this time and, you know, fight it in high rank. And they did mention a level above Tempered, so that makes me think of like Arch Tempered from World and Iceborne. So fingers crossed that'll be in the first title update along Mizusune and the Gathering Hub. But if not, just the second title update, like, please, this needs to be addressed. I need to get Zoshia gear and just re-experience that fight at a harder difficulty, because it was so incredible and it was just such a letdown to not be able to make any gear from that monster. All right, so those are my main gripes out of the way, and now I want to talk a bit about the endgame systems. So I really love this game's investigation system. I think it is incredible. I think that the way that it funnels into the endgame is also incredible with the decorations and the Artian weapon parts. I do have some things I want to say about Artian weapons, and we'll get to that soon, but for now, let's focus on the investigations and the tempered monsters. So, investigations from World and tempered monsters also from World are back, and in this game, it's so simple. Once you're in a high rank, all you do is, if you're on a map, or even if you're just looking at the world map, you can see what monsters are currently roaming around the map, and you can select them on the map, see what extra rewards they will give you, including some where they even guarantee a gym of the monster, which is really helpful. And so you can save it as an investigation, or you can go on a quest in the field and then save it as an investigation afterwards, allowing you to do that same investigation essentially 4 times in a row, get those rewards 4 times in a row. However, if you fail, that'll still count as a use of the investigation, so you do have to be careful about that. The main thing that you're going to be hunting for in the end game, of course, outside of, you know, the typical just any gear you want to make, any armor, any weapons, is of course going to be the decorations and the Artian weapon parts. Now, I also, speaking of decorations, I love the way they handled decorations in this game, because now decorations are split into armor decorations and weapon decorations. So now more offensive skills can only be slotted into your weapon decoration slots, and then the armor decorations that are more like defensive and utility based can only be slotted into your armor decoration slots. Now, at first I wasn't too sure about this change. I thought it was kind of weird. However, I realized that it's actually really, really good, because a big problem with the old Monster Hunter games, or just all the Monster Hunter games prior to Wilds, is that all people would do in the end game is they would get a ton of like attack up, affinity up, like all kinds of decorations like that, and they would just stack that, you know, weakness exploit, crit boost, crit eye, and they would just max all of those out, because they would just have so many decoration slots, and they would just stack those on all of their armor and their weapon decoration slots, and it really just kind of, I don't know, I don't think it was very good, because it didn't really encourage experimentation or playing with more utility-based skills as much. And so I think this split does that, because you can't just do that anymore. The decoration grind, thanks to the investigations and being able to meld a lot of decorations, you know, both RNG and some specific ones at the melder, is just so much better than it was in World and Iceborne. And like, Iceborne made it a lot better, but here it is just really good. I really don't feel like I'm, you know, struggling to get decorations that I really want. And, you know, it's really fun when I get like a crazy one that has like multiple skills on it as well. So it kind of keeps you coming back to try to get like better and better decorations for your builds. Now, the Artian weapons is a new system in this game. And so essentially, when you do tempered hunts, you get these parts for weapons, and they have like different elements on them. And you combine these parts, like different amounts of these parts, there's always 3 of them, to make different weapon types of different elements and whatnot. And these weapons, so they don't have skills on them, which I did forget to mention that because of the divide between attack skills and defensive skills now, a sort of consolation to kind of help get you more offensive skills is that all the different weapons like come with skills on them as well, kind of like how armor does. So you don't just get decoration slots, you also get skills on the weapons, and usually those skills are like utility related for that weapon, which is really good. But anyways, so now the Artian weapons, right? They have a ton of deco slots. However, they do not have any skills on them innately, which is an interesting trade-off. Now, while the Artian weapons have really cool designs, something that I'm not the biggest fan of is that they are currently considered to be some of the best weapons in the game if you get the Rarity 8 Artian parts and you get like a really good element or status and you upgrade them all the way. So while the designs are cool, I like seeing more people using the monster weapons, And I really hope they find a way to kind of balance this out a bit. Like, something I was thinking of yesterday was that maybe they should do a thing where you can augment the regular weapons with Artian parts as well. I think it would give the Artian parts more uses and would also encourage people to play more with the regular weapons as well. Speaking of weapons, there actually is one other tiny little gripe I forgot to mention earlier, which is that in this game, you can carry 2 weapons with you on a hunt at once, thanks to your Sacred. And I do think that it's really cool. I like being able to have, like, a slicing weapon and then have, like, a hammer as a blunt weapon, be able to switch to those on the fly in the middle of a hunt. It's awesome. I love that. However, I think where there's a bit of an issue with it is that, let's say you have a build that is all based around hammer and you go into the field and then you want to switch to your secondary weapon. That's a completely different weapon type. Well, why would you do that when your entire build is based around hammer? I think there's definitely an issue there. I think it can work with weapons that kind of have similar sort of, skills that work well for them. And of course, with just skills that are universally good or mostly universally good. But it's definitely, I think there might need to be some tweaks there just to make that a little more useful if you want to switch to a completely different weapon type. But yeah, I think we have about covered everything I wanted to say in this initial review of Monster Hunter Wilds a week after the game launched. And, again, like, all my tiny little gripes aside, like, this game is just so incredible. I'm having an absolute blast with it, and I am so excited to see what Capcom adds in these updates going forward, and I really hope that some of my gripes get addressed, and I'm sure they will, because I definitely am not alone in these gripes that I have. But like I said, game is for me, a 10 out of 10. Definitely can see this becoming one of the GOATs in the series of Monster Hunter. And, I have, of course, more videos coming up for this game and things I want to talk about more in depth about the game. Like I want to do a rank the monsters video, which I think will be really fun to do. Rate the monsters in Wilds. So that's going to be a fun one. You guys can expect that one coming up pretty soon. But for now, that was my review of Monster Hunter Wilds a week after launch, and I will see you guys in the next Monster Hunter video. Happy hunting.